much a daily basis. Now, some of you would say, well, 7 years doesn't seem very long. But for somebody to make videos on YouTube, 7 years is considered very long to be on YouTube. Now, there's a lot of people that are on 10 years, and I don't know too many that are on longer than that. But 7 years is considered fairly long in the YouTube world. In the last 6 months, I've noticed something in the internet world, and I debated if I wanted to share this because my channel is all about positivity, but sometimes I like to share some of my thoughts. Now, I am not a conspiracy theory person normally, and you won't hear me talk a lot about end times and things like that. I'll leave that up to the other people on their channels. That just simply isn't something that I'm that comfortable with. Now, even though I did share a few things, one time I shared a prophetic word, and it was about the seal has been broken, and that was a few years ago, and then right after that is when COVID hit. And I do share every once in a while things that are on my mind and thoughts that have to do with end times, and I am a believer, and I am a born-again Christian, and I do believe in the end times. You can get wrapped up in if it's pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, post-tribulation, you know, all of that. I don't talk about those things on my channel. I leave it up to the experts and people like that. But with that being said, I have noticed in the last 6 months a big change in YouTube and pretty much the internet world as far as videos. And I wanted to share a little bit of my thoughts with all of you. Now, this video may not be something that you're interested in, and I totally understand that. I know not every one of my videos is something that people are going to find value in. But I do think sometimes, though, it's good for someone like me to break out of my shell a little bit and just share with you all thoughts that I have that it comes to this type of thing. I had a dream, and it was a little bit right after some situations happened in my own life. Now, I'm not just saying that the internet world has changed because of things that happened to me. No, it's pretty much all Christians that are on the internet world. And it's a very interesting, I will say that. That's not the right word to use, but I will use that word. And I do believe that there are forces. I believe there's good and there's bad. And I believe there's spirits. So I believe there's good spirits and I believe there's bad spirits. I also believe that this world, what you see, the physical world, and the spiritual world, what you see way up in there, I believe both those worlds are a lot thinner than what you think. In other words, we look up at the sky and we say, oh, look at heaven. It's way up there somewhere. It's way up there somewhere, way beyond that. It's millions and millions of miles away. In the physical world, yes, I'm sure it is many, many millions of miles away. But I do believe the spiritual world, I do believe it's like a vapor. In the Bible, it talks about it being like a vapor. Your life is like a vapor. And so what I have been seeing is that there is a lot more evil, and it's coming in the form of being on the internet. It's evil influences, evil people, but the people are just the vehicle for what is inside them and what is happening to them. I've seen so much attack on especially Christian people, but I've seen so much attack on people in general that want to share their life with others. I've seen it. I've seen so many channels shut down. I've seen so many families that are going through so much because they shared their life on the internet. And it used to be this. So I'm trying to play my words a little bit because I don't really want to say exactly how I feel. And that's to be honest with you, because if I would say exactly how I feel, I would be saying that the devil is loose and he's become loose on the internet. And then if I would say that in a way, people would be like, oh, she's just such a weirdo. And I'm trying to say it in a way that people can understand. When we first started making videos on YouTube and the platform of the internet, you know, we had to worry about little things like somebody writing a column about us, saying that we're fat, or, you know, that we're sloppy, that we're dirty, that we're stinky, that we are this and that, you know, attacking the physical being of the person. And, you know, that was what we had to worry about. And that was something that I had to get used to. But it's gone to a whole new level. And then people had to start worrying about it when they did live streams. There were squatters, there was people doing all of these things. And then it got even worse. And then it was people that were stalking people that were online, trying to find their full names, their addresses, where they lived, who they married, and who they dated for 30 years ago. And then it got into that. And then it got into a more of a dark world, a dark spiritual world, where people were into paganism, and they said they were going to do this to people and do that to people, and they were going to enter the spirit world and do all of this. It slowly progressed, and that's how life is. And I told my husband the other day, here is a good case in point. Back in the 1970s, when I was a young girl, there would be horror movies, and I was not allowed to watch hardly anything on TV. My parents were very strict. But every once in a while, when my parents were gone or something like that, I would always like to see what else I could watch that they wouldn't let me watch. I mean, I was a kid. And I remember a horror movie, and I was petrified. It scared me so bad. And now I look at that same horror movie. If I look at that same horror movie, it was like so cheesy and so wasn't scary at all, because we got conditioned to what the life was from then to now. People get conditioned into seeing gore. And so what was back in the 30s and the 50s and the 70s no longer was scary, because what they're seeing now is so much more scary, because there's so much more graphics and all of that. It's happening to people on the online world. And what happens is they start out doing little things, you know, little things to hurt others and to, in the moment, make themselves feel better. But then what happens is they continue and they get deeper and deeper and deeper into the darkness, into the dark side. And then they become to the point where they become oppressed. There's possessed and there's oppressed. And the difference is, possession is usually with somebody who's not a Christian, who doesn't proclaim to be a Christian. But then there's people who proclaim to be a Christian and then they become oppressed, and with those type of influences and darkness. And so what I am seeing is things that people are doing in the physical world to attack others. And it's becoming a real serious situation, because when it's done online and people do things online, they think there's no consequences because you can be anonymous, you can do all of these things. But what happens is little things become bigger things, and it snowballs into huge things in some people's lives. I mean, I know for a fact some channels that have children that people falsely accuse them to certain agencies, and they can't make videos anymore with their children because they were falsely accused and proven to be innocent, but all that they went through. And you know, it's just such a different world that we live in. When I first made my YouTube channel, you know, I took my granddaughters and I would show, you know, their things at their school, and you know, I can't do that anymore. And simply because I don't want to do that anymore, because it's just such a different world. It's a world that is just so troubled. And so I say all of this to say one thing. If you have a YouTuber that you enjoy and you like to watch their content, the most important thing that you could possibly do is not give them money, but is to pray for them. And I continually ask you to pray for me and my family, that the Lord would give us strength and protection to continue to make the videos that we make, and to give us safety and to just be there for us. It's very difficult. It is the hardest thing I ever had to do, is go through 2024 and move on into making videos, even just benign videos. I'm not talking about, I can't imagine, to be honest with you, I can't imagine Prairie and Escalation Homestead, where she does a lot of this end times and what's going on. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine her life whatsoever. I don't have the backbone. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do that. And I just am amazed at that some people can continue to share in that way, because I can't imagine the hate that she gets. And I see people that just do regular videos, cooking, never did anything about talking about their personal life like I do, and the hate they get. So I'm asking for prayer. I'm just asking for prayer that you pray for these content creators and people who do put their life out there for the world to see, because it's not a very pleasant world in some instances. But you know, I love all of you. You guys are amazing. But if I don't tell you what's happening as a content creator, you wouldn't know it. And I want you to pray. I beg for you to pray. You know, prayer is more important than anything in the world. It's more important than dropping $10 in a donation basket. Prayer changes things. And I know that we are in a season for a reason. I believe that everything happens for a reason. I said that one time and somebody bucked me a little bit on it. I didn't mean everything bad happens for a good reason. I just meant everything happens for a reason. When bad things happen to good people, there's a reason for it. And the reason is because we live in a fallen world. It's not a fair world. So when I say everything happens for a reason, it's not saying that everything happens for a reason that we can turn it into good, but everything happens for a reason. And things happen to me for a reason. Some of the things that happen to me, I look on it and I think, okay, well, I put my life out there. It's to be expected, but it shouldn't be, is what I'm trying to say. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and just please pray. People who are Christians, but pray for everyone in this world, because there's a lot of things happening that just simply are not fair. And there's a lot of evilness that's happening. And I believe that when people come together and pray, I believe that prayer changes situations. I believe prayer changes people. I believe that prayer makes a difference in everyone's life. And I believe that it's up to the Lord. In the Bible, it says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. And that's a hard concept, because when you go through things and you wonder why things are happening, and you wonder why God's not doing what you want him to, you question it. It's human nature. But maybe things are allowed to happen to be able to give a testimony to what God is doing. And so that is my video for today. And as the world becomes a dark place, I'm asking that the Lord would rise up his faithful people, and that the Lord would rise us up to be soldiers for Christ. Soldiers, yes, we are soldiers for Christ, not in a physical sense, but in a spiritual sense. Because wherever there's good, there's evil. But good always, always wins. May not be on this earth right now, but it will be for eternity.